and welcome to Connect, Engage, Collaborate, a podcast brought to you by the Tempe Police Department. And I'm your host, Patricia Ramirez. Today, I'm joined by a panel of guests. And can you please start off by introducing yourself?
Yes, thank you. My name is Denison Dawson. I work as the recruiting officer for the city of Tempe, the police department. Been on 20 years with the department, have had an excellent career. I've been everything from a motor, hostage negotiator, field training officer, juvenile detective, school resource officer, and now the recruiting officer. Loving what I do right now, bringing in new people into the department, just having a good time. A little bit of background for me. I'm a native Arizonan, South Phoenix area. Grew up in some hard times, made it out of the hard times from my family background and dysfunction, and became a police officer. And now I'm able to make a difference in the community and just serve in a way that, it just is inspiring because I've come from that side, so.
Oh, excellent. Can you tell me what led you to law enforcement and who helped you in that? Is there anyone that played a role?
Yes. So I had a football scholarship, and when I graduated and came back home, I majored in English, didn't want to be a teacher and go into law. When you graduate college, you're kind of in that area where you don't know what you want to do, even though you have a degree. So I was working at Bank of America, met a coworker there. She wanted to be Phoenix police officer. I was training at a gym part-time, got her into shape, trainer got her into shape for free. And she's like, you should do this. And I'm like, I didn't hate cops growing up, even though I grew up in inner city, bad area, never had a disdain for law enforcement or anything like that, but just never dreamed of being one. My dream was the NFL, to go to the NFL. That did happen, right? So she got me an application in 2002 at a women's conference. There was no internet then, filled out the application. I was in shape from working out. I had a college degree, so the written wasn't hard. And so I began to pass these things. And at that time, I just found God and I said a little prayer and I'm like, is this what you want me to do? And I heard yes, and I moved forward. So the job kind of came to me. It wasn't like I dreamt to be an officer my whole career or my whole life, it kind of came to me. And I can see looking back 20 years, it was designed for me. I found my purpose in law enforcement. I love helping people and serving people. And they ask you that day one in the academy, why do you want to be an officer? I want to serve and protect. And I really do. That's my passion. So when I meet people in the street, I don't tell them I work as a law enforcement officer. I say it's my ministry. That's how I refer to it, because really we're serving people in a way that's to me more than just a career. So I call it my ministry. I found my purpose is helping others through this.
That's a great story. Thank you for sharing that as well. And so currently your role is can you tell me your role in the Tempe Police Department today?
Okay. So as a recruiting officer, which is, this position is amazing because we never had a recruiting officer in the history of our department. So the test opened up. It was a temporary assignment. It's just become a full-time assignment. So it was an honor to be the first recruiting officer for the department. What I do mainly as recruiting is I do travel a little bit in-state and do functions, but most of it's online, social media. I brand our department every week in a social media post. We're on all social media platforms, a lot of online, because the website's linked directly to my email. So I'm answering questions from all over the country, phone calls from all over the country. One of the things that I brought to recruiting personally, since I played Division I football, I remember what it was like to be recruited. And the reason why I chose the university that I chose was how I felt when I went there, the things they showed me, the equipment and all that. I said, why don't we bring that to our recruiting? If you're going to apply with the Tempe Police Department, you put an application, I reach out to these people and say, hey, do you want to come down? I invite them to the station I work out of, introduce them to command staff. We have the indoor firearms range there, take them to the range, show them our weapons, show them our vehicles, and really give them the full feel, the senses, feel, see, taste, touch kind of experience. And everybody's just been raving about that because you can't get that in any other department locally. So
that is great. I'm going to have you break that down a little more.
Okay.
And I'm going to have Officer Miller, if you can also introduce yourself, and then we will see how the two of you work together as a team.
Okay. Yes, my name is Mike Miller. I've been with the Tempe Police Department for about 10 years now. I've had a little bit of different background as far as what led me to this point. I was an officer in Las Vegas Metropolitan Police Department when I first started out for about 2 years, a little bit over 2 years. And then my wife was also in the military at that time. She got transferred to Virginia, so I was a Newport News police officer in Virginia for just about a year and a half before coming over here. Currently, I'm a recruit training officer at the Mesa Police Academy. Been there for the last year or so. Most of my time in patrol as an officer has been in patrol. I've been a field training officer, was a gang detective for about a year, and it's mainly just been patrol work. So from the Bay Area, so from California, been out here for the last 10 years or so. I was in the military, in the Air Force for 4 years prior to joining the police departments.
So do the two of you work together in terms of recruitment and the training?
Yeah.
And can you explain that, please?
Yeah, we don't actually work together, meaning in the same area, because he's out at the academy, but we do work together as far as bringing them to start to finish. So I recruit them, I bring them in. Once I recruit them, they go through background and obviously poly and all that stuff. They get hired, then they get placed out at the academy. And how we work in together, because we have a good pre-academy here at our department where we have a 2-week window where we prep them, the recruits, as they're coming in. They're doing everything from firearms to report writing, to driving, to scenarios, everything they're going to see when they get to the academy. So when they go and meet Mike, they're up and running, ready to go. It's not like a shocking experience. The transition is easier. So that's kind of how we collaborate, from a recruiting to the academy scenario.
And then when they're at the academy, can you share some of that experience and what that is like?
Yeah, so it's a 24-week process, and they basically get trained in basically over 900 hours of just academic work, scenario-based training, introduction to criminal law, use of force scenarios, use of force training, search and seizure techniques, arrest tactics, defensive tactics, defensive or tactical driving training, firearm training, and they are tested throughout their time on those subjects as they go along. They basically do a test almost every week that they are required to get a certain score and to keep moving on from there.
And Officer Miller, what happens when there's a struggle in the academy? So is it that everybody makes it through the academy? Or are there challenges? And if there are challenges, how does the department help a person through that?
Definitely different challenges. Some of them could be on the academic side. They are required to pass tests with a minimum score of 70%. If they happen to fail that test, we work with them in called a remediation. So we go over the test with them, go over that subject, whatever it is, if it's an introduction to criminal law or criminal codes or something like that, we'll sit with them, either myself or another member of the academy staff will sit with them and talk to them about those different questions that they have missed and what might be a holdup in regards to that. And they'll get a test within a certain amount of time, and they pass that, then they move on. Unfortunately, if they fail it, then they are disqualified from the academy. Other things that we've noticed that have had struggles with things is just picking up on the material as far as scenario-based training. So when some people are not able to process things quickly and make quick decisions like we are asked to as officers in dynamic situations, and they may not be able to pick up on that. So things that we try to help them out is try to work with our training unit and our recruiting unit with Tempe to maybe give them extra hours on the side to where they're away from the academy staff, because maybe they're just nervous in front of RTOs or recruit training officers or other staff members. And by providing them with some extra hours of instruction and more practice and preparation and mental preparation, they typically do all right.
So what I'm hearing is there's support behind a person being hired and then going into the academy. And if there are struggles, what I'm hearing from you is that our department looks for ways to assist a person.
Absolutely. It's not necessarily just performance based. It's some things that if people are, I know in a previous class that I had, a recruit had some personal stuff going on, and we got him into our support staff that can get them some help, and it really helped them, and you could see a difference in their performance from when they were going through that struggle for those couple weeks. They were starting to go down that road where they might have been disqualified from the academy, and if we didn't catch it soon enough, we might have lost that officer. And now, to my knowledge, they're out in the street and they're doing really well.
That's great. And so we've spoken about the academy, and those are certainly police officers, but it's also important for us to discuss our professional staff. And we've had some conversations here in terms of communications. We have records. There are so many different roles that you can play in the Tempe Police Department. Can you share with me in terms of professional staff and hiring and recruiting and that aspect?
As a recruiting officer, I did not just recruit sworn, like you just mentioned, professional staff. So detention detention, records, communications, and our community responder position, which is a new position that we just developed this year. As a community responder, you're not a sworn officer, but you are wearing a uniform. You carry mace, no gun. You do things from handling calls where there's no suspect present, like a short form burglary, delayed burglary, a criminal damage kind of deal. You'll be processing, doing all the same stuff, taking photos and that, directing traffic on accidents, traffic control, stuff like that. So there'll be a community responder on each squad assisting patrol. And we've seen a lot of interest in that position because a lot of people want to help out, but a lot of people don't want to go to the academy, or they may feel that they're not in the shape to pass the academy because of the physical requirements. So community responder is a great position for us right now because people are being able to contribute. So with that being said, we also, records is hurting, detention is hurting. So we have efforts to push to recruit to that. We're seeing a lot of interest in those areas as well because they're good paying jobs. They're great environments to work in. Dispatch is also a kind of a stressful environment like patrol is. So there is that aspect, but these are high demand jobs. So as a recruiting officer, I've created flyers for these positions. And whenever I go out or whenever I'm talking to someone who doesn't make it in sworn or for sworn position, we're always mentioning these other areas because our professional staff, without them, sworn needs these professional staff. We all work together and we're one big family. And speaking of family, it's another thing that I always preach to the people when I'm recruiting them is the family environment that we have here at Tempe. And not just in the area that I work in my 20-year career, and I'm sure you can attest to this as well. We work around great people.
Absolutely.
And there's such a family environment here. And that's why I like bringing people into the station to see that on those tours, because that's another thing they speak to is like they can see the energy, how people get along, how they laugh, how they joke. And so that family environment is essence, is what's recruiting these people as well to these different areas. So we are hitting those areas hard. We've also taken on a professional staff recruiting person, Bianca, will be assisting us. So I will be meeting with her in the upcoming weeks to get her up and running because that's just been a new position created. Okay. So we'll be working hand in hand to recruit professional staff as well.
And you are a very exciting person. You have great passion. I've seen that throughout my entire career working with you. So you have definitely developed a plan here and a system that has been very successful. So new officers are coming to the Tempe Police Department. How do you feel in your role in terms of professional staff, bringing other people in? How does that personally affect you? And what do you get out of that personally?
That's a great question because it does gratify you. You feel so fulfilled because you've helped this person get onto a position like they may, even if they didn't make it sworn, they were discouraged. They're encouraged because now they see they can contribute in another way. And like I said, these are good paying positions. The money's good. The benefits are good. We have great pay and benefits. We have tuition reimbursement in every area, $6,000 a year to go back to school. So you're helping someone change their life.
Absolutely.
And and just this morning, I kid you not, just this morning, one of our custodial workers was cleaning, and we came up, it just started talking about life stuff. We chit chat, and she's mentioned that they make just over $20,000 a year to clean our facilities. And I'm like, what? I thought they got paid more. I never looked at it. Right. So I just began to talk to her about the community responder position. I said, come here, look at this. I pulled it up, showed her the flyer with the pay scale between $45,000 and around $60,000 a year. All the same benefits. She works 40 hours a week cleaning our facilities anyway. She's here 40 hours a week. Why not make $25,000 more? She had no idea about this position. She had no idea about this money that could change her life and her family.
Absolutely.
So I gave her my business card. I gave her my cell phone number to give me a call because I could assist her with, because there is a written test and all that stuff. But, I could help her with those areas just like we do at the academy. And so here you are able to change someone's life who is in the organization already, with the same kind of benefits, but is not making the money that, that you can make in these other assignments. So it's life changing for you because you're helping someone better their life.
Absolutely. And just sharing that without giving a person's name, we have an officer here that started off as a custodian and today is a very successful police officer.
Yes, I know who you're talking about. Okay. Yeah. He's a great person, great man, great officer. Yeah.
Absolutely. So you just sharing, we've already had that and it's been a positive thing. So thank you. And
so Trish, I'm going to tell you, being a recruiter is definitely, like you said, I'm passionate. Like it fits my personality.
It does.
You're able to help. Like you can see the light when people, you can see a click in their eyes when they get to see the benefits, the pay, and then when they get on, how happy they are, and to know that you are a part of that process, you really can't describe that in words.
And Michael, going to you, so personally, as you are working with the recruitment and going through the academy, can you share what is graduation? What is being successful? How does that make you feel on that day of graduation?
It's a great honor. I mean, it's something that you get to see people come in and that have no experience whatsoever with police work from that day one, and they stumble with knocking on doors, announcing, talking loud, having command presence. Some of them don't even know how to just wear a uniform just in general, as far as gig line, where they put stuff on their belt, what they put in their pockets or anything like that. And then you go into 24 weeks later and they have a basic understanding of how to do the job, and they look very sharp in their uniform, and they're very eager to go out and start their 25-year career out on the street. And so it's very, very humbling to see that. And especially when I look back on it, and from my time when I started in Vegas, and it was like, oh, wow, I was one day them. And I've learned to grow and change and, progress throughout my career. And that's why it's good that I'm able to pass and have the opportunity to pass along the knowledge that I was taught by senior officers and that I was taught and to them and go from there.
And how do you see family and friends react to that graduation day?
Oh, they're ecstatic. From everybody that I've seen. I mean, they got a sense of pride and honor in their son or daughter, or family member, husband, wife, brother, sister, whatever it is in their relation, just in friends. And we see a lot of other officers there. I mean, the last graduation I was, we had several Tempe officers that I didn't even know were going to show up, and it wasn't part of command staff. They were just there because they were in support of that recruit who just put on their badge for the first time.
And do you see professional staff there as well? Absolutely. So everybody comes and it's an exciting day. So can we now discuss what type of person would make a good employee in the police department in terms of sworn and also professional staff?
Yes. In my opinion, it's someone who has great character. We see honor, pride, and integrity all over our department, and those words mean something. So great character, positive person, upbeat, happy. We have a lot of positive people here, always smiling and energetic. So I just feel like character, positive person, someone you can count on, integrity, that you're going to be able to come in and do a good job. So just hardworking, a motivated individual, selfly motivated, driven, So those would be great qualities in any department or any agency, really. But that's what we see. And that's a lot of what we're getting too from the people that apply. But just good character, great personality. You don't have to be perfect. We're not looking for perfect people. Just come in and have fun and enjoy your job.
And can we talk about here, as we've been sitting and having conversation, we've also addressed age. We've addressed some diversity. For listeners, I definitely, for me personally, I would want a person to not feel limited, that wherever they are in life, there's a place for you.
Yeah.
And so would you mind sharing about that?
Yes. So being African-American in the department, I've never felt limited or held back in any way. Never promoted because I didn't want to promote, but I've been in a lot of various assignments like I listed. I've never felt discriminated against. I never felt, like you said, held back, always welcomed, open-armed. But a lot of that is, I really believe that it's not just that I'm an African-American, it's because they see the personality, the character that goes along with it that we spoke on before. So that will precede you in our organization, your character, your work ethic. But I've never ever felt held back. I've always felt encouraged or prompted to do something. So it's limitless within our department where you want to go, professional staff or sworn.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Thank you for sharing about that. And Officer Miller, in the academy, would you say that this is a job only for someone in their 20s? Or can you break down in terms of gender and age, race? What do you see over at the academy?
We see all different ages, races, obviously gender, male, female, it doesn't matter. We're looking for that well-rounded officer or person that can come in and work hard, has that integrity. And in the academy, we've had, like right now, we got a 20-year-old that is you have to be 21 years old at the time of graduation to be certified as an officer in Arizona. But other than that, it's the age range has gone from 20 up to, I think in the previous class, we had a female that started out and she was, I think, 55 or 54 or something like that.
Wow.
So she had some issues with it, but she ended up, I heard she didn't make it through the Mesa Academy and through a different department. She went through and from what I hear, she made it. So currently we have somebody that is I think 46-year-old male that works for a different department, and he's keeping up as best that he can. And we don't hold him to. We're not looking for everybody to run, a 40-yard dash in 4.5 seconds or 3 seconds. We're looking for the maximum effort that you can give on everything that we do. So it's not that I may be able to perform a certain way physically, but Officer Dawson may be something far better at it, but we're still going to know that we're going to both go to the call and we'll be there.
So everybody has their strengths,
Yes.
right?
Mm-hmm.
And in terms of professional staff, sworn, we all bring something different to the table.
To the table, that's
Absolutely.
correct.
And
Yeah.
so, perfect. So let's talk about some feedback that in terms of hiring, what feedback have you received from new employees in terms of the recruiting and the training process?
It starts off from the response. I've gotten great feedback from just reaching out. Apparently, when people send emails, they don't get responded to right away. And when they do get responded to, it's just kind of like a generic email. But I'm big on customer service. And like I told you before, I'm in here to serve. And so I'm serving as a recruiter. So my job is to respond right away. So that's the key. It starts from there. And then once you get them in the door, then they then see the energy and the love that we have for one another inside the organization. So that touches them. So it's just basically from the communication, from the time they apply to when they come in the door, and what they experience within the organization. And the feedback's been phenomenal. They're saying they're not getting it in any other agency that they apply for.
That's impressive.
Yeah. So
And so you sound busy.
I'm very busy. As the only
Okay.
recruiter, I'm very busy.
Okay.
A lot's been added to my plate, but I'm enjoying it. I run our social media. I answer like I said, the website comes to me, so I answer all calls. I get teased about my spreadsheet, but my spreadsheet keeps me. I've talked to, since I've been over in January, over 300 people
Okay.
I've dealt with personally. And so my position, I never want someone to feel slighted, because I meet a lot of good people and I have a lot of great interactions and a great contacts with them. And I'm only one person, and they don't realize that sometimes, but I'm only one person. But I want them to always feel special. And so I take detailed notes on my spreadsheet. I don't call anyone back till I refer to my spreadsheet. That way I can remember who they were and what, because I never want them to feel slighted, because you're connecting with people in a great way, and you want to keep that feeling.
Yes. And so tell me, what are some challenges, disqualifications, what are some factors that can lead to that in the academy?
In the academy, and even in hiring, because I work in the hiring unit as a recruiter, I bring them in, but integrity is a big one. And you'd be surprised how many people come through that door and don't even make it through because of integrity, lying. For instance, Arizona Post standards, it used to be a number of times you could smoke marijuana. Now it's unlimited times, but you have to be clean 2 years prior to applying. Well, the candidates will come in and say they've only done it once, when the number is not the issue anymore. It's the 2 years being clean. Well, then they go through their background and their pre-polygraph screening. And when they go to they release a little bit more information. Okay, it was a little bit more than one. It was 100. And so now you have an integrity issue because you told us one in the beginning. And had you just said honestly what you thought it wouldn't have been an issue, because 2 years clean is all we're looking for. So right in the gate, you're seeing integrity be the main thing that gets people not even fired, but not hired,
So if you could personally speak to someone, what would your message be in terms of that and disqualifications that you're seeing?
I would say be honest. Be honest with yourself. See, what I think people struggle with is they don't want to be intimate. And we always think intimacy is a sexual nature, but it's allowing people to see you.
It's being vulnerable.
Being vulnerable. Like, none of us are perfect. We all have flaws. Everybody in here is going through something, or has gone through something, or is going to go through something, right? So just let yourself be seen. And don't try to mask anything. Don't try to hide anything. Be who you are, because we want you.
Absolutely.
We don't want who we think you should be. We want you. And if they can remember that when they're testing, that would give them the confidence to say, here's me. I'm full disclosure. Either you like me or you don't.
Right. Officer Miller, give me your input on that, please, in terms of the academy.
It's the same thing as far as one of the issues that call for a disqualification is integrity. We've had one that a couple classes ago, they had to remove from the academy because he was lying about how many rounds he did in an exercise. And it wasn't like he was lying about just a few things or anything. Like, it was, he would say he did 5 or 4. I'm sorry. He would say he did 5 rounds and he'd only do 4. And it's something that obviously the academy staff, it wasn't like it was a count on his part. It was just a one-time thing. They followed up on it and had somebody watching him while he was doing it and found that he was routinely doing it. And so he was removed from the academy. Other things that can be disqualifying factors is the academic side. Again, you have to pass with a 70%. If you don't pass that remedial test, then you're out. You can't fail more than 3 tests throughout the entire academy through that 24 weeks. And like I said, it's pretty much every week or at least every other week, depending on where they're at in the academy, that they take a series of tests. You can fail out or be disqualified for firearms training. So you have to get a 210 out of 250 for the Arizona Post qualification for firearms, both during the daytime and the nighttime qualification. If you're not performing well in scenario-based training, they're called field problems. And in the Mesa Academy, we do 4 different sets of field problems throughout the 6 months that they're there. And the last set of field problems, if it's kind of treated the same way as the test, where you're presented with a call for service, you have to go to it, or a few calls for services. And if you don't pass it, then you have to get remediated and you do a remedial. And if you don't pass that one, then you're removed from that night. Others are if you're not putting forth the effort, like in physical conditioning or just in general, you have a poor attitude, you're not responding to training, then that could be a cause for dismissal from the academy. At the very end, in the last week or two, they take a comprehensive final exam. And then that one, it's done through AZ Post, the Peace Officer Standard and Training Board. You have to pass with the 70%. There's 3 blocks in that. And again, those ones you are allowed the opportunity if you have a bad day or something like that and you get below 70, then you can take that once more. If you fail that one, there's still a chance that you can go through another academy, but that's going to be up to the department. And you have, I think, 60 days after that to retake it and pass it. And if you do, then you're certified as an officer in Arizona. And there's defensive tactics that they take, that they have to take a practical exam at the end, and that's through search and seizure techniques and arrest tactics that they will have to do to show that they're proficient in those skills.
So when he was talking about training, what also came to mind is obviously the physical. You have requirements to get to the academy. We don't lose a lot of people through the 1.5 miles and push-ups and sit-ups, but we can lose people there. Obviously, the written is another one. 70% passing for our written to get in as well. But what came to my mind is background. Background is one thing that we see besides integrity. And what I mean by that is social media accounts, people posting, sharing information, derogatory stuff, statements, applying to be officers, and this stuff's out there. And so your background, not just what you've done in life, but what are you sharing? What are you posting? And those things have eliminated people from getting further because of what they have posted or said, because they're representing the city now.
Absolutely.
They're not just representing the city themselves.
Thank you for sharing that. That's a very important aspect. And in today's world, it is so much social media and very different from when we were hired.
Yeah.
Can we talk about, we spent some time on recruitment, the academy, and all of that is very important. But I also want to move to how do we take care of ourselves as employees once we are past all of that? So our training. So can you talk about, for professional staff and for sworn, what happens as we progress through the years and where does training come into play?
The department does a great job of ongoing training for both sworn and professional staff. So that keeps our proficiencies up and it helps us to become great employees and always to progress within the organization. So I feel like the department does a really good job with ongoing training as far as that goes on both sides of the house, professional and sworn.
Can you give me some examples or break that down for a listener to understand?
Yeah, so right now we're going through annual officer training, which is our AOT. We're rolling out the new TASER 7s. So they're getting TASER trained. They'll do some classroom work. HR is also coming through talking about the Craig Tiger Act. The Craig Tiger Act, if they're not familiar with it, in Arizona, we had an officer in Phoenix who committed suicide because he had some mental stuff going on and got a DUI. The department fired him. And instead of providing mental assistance or mental health assistance, they terminated him. So legislation has been passed where basically the departments now have to take care of their employees if there's something going on. And so the Craig Tiger Act's in legislation, and it basically gives you up to 30-something psychological visits paid by the department on department's time to make sure that wellness is taken care of. And I feel like our organization, besides that legislation, our organization is doing a really good job at wellness. We just hired a wellness coordinator. I believe we're one of the first in the Valley to have a wellness coordinator. And his sole job is our peer support team, which I'm also a part of. It's an amazing organization where peers can then help one another through stressful or difficult situations. And we are also covered by Arizona revised statutes. There's a statute in there that protects us, aside from the person committing a crime or something, where we're protected to not share that information with the department. So that peer support team has been successful in helping mental health and the stable, having a stable employee, as well as the department going out and hiring a mental health or wellness coordinator. I mean, that's phenomenal. I mean, and he's in charge of, he's rolling out programs for working out. We now get bonuses if you do the POPAT, which is the police officer physical aptitude test. You get $250 for that if you pass it. If you keep your shooting up, your proficiency up there, get a perfect score of 250, you get another $250. So these things the department is doing to, and also city council, because they're voting on some of this through our MOU. They're showing support of the employee and the total wellness. It's not like just you're here now, you're working for us. They're like, how are you doing here and at home? Is there something we can do to help your home life? Yeah.
So officers participate in this AOT, annual officer training, but do we also have professional staff that attends a part of AOT, or how do they come into play so that they also receive proper training?
Yes, they are also part of the AOT. They don't do the physical requirements or the training with the taser and the equipment that the officers do, but any of the classroom settings and environments where things are rolled out and taught, they're a part of that. And so it's another way to bridge professional staff with sworn, because a lot of times you don't know who works in records or who's in dispatch behind the microphone, right? So you get to see these people in trainings, and it just builds that camaraderie and that team building and family environment.
Oh, that's great. Okay.
And even, sorry, I didn't mean to cut you off.
Please, Michael.
Even in like when they get done with the academy, they have post academy training, and in that they're working with non-sworn personnel. They're like do kind of a ride along with dispatchers to where they get to see really what the dispatchers go through for anywhere from 4 hours to, I think, almost the whole day, depending on what they have going on for that time period. So they get a real glimpse on what the non-sworn personnel get to do, and they go into the evidence room, see what it's like to be an evidence technician. And so they get to see what the other side of it is from when they turn everything in to what happens next. Or
and on
prior
the flip
to the
side
call.
of that, when they're hired in records and those other areas, they go on ride-alongs with officers.
Yes.
So when I was working in patrol, I've took many of dispatchers who were new.
So did I.
Yeah. So that's the other side. They get to ride along with officers and see that side of experience.
And it does plant a positive seed, because I did that. That was about 17 years ago. And to this day, the person still talks about that time that she was able to spend with me. I was a prior Phoenix police dispatcher, and she was up in dispatch. And I have great memories, and she does as well. So you definitely, through the years, plant these positive seeds, and our department encourages us to do so.
Yes.
So thank you for that. Can you tell me how are officers trained to work in a crisis situation? And I'm going to open that to the floor.
Yeah, we can both speak to that. Mm-hmm. We do have our CIT program, and basically you get certified in CIT. I know they didn't want to use acronyms. Crisis Incident Training. Intervention training. There we go.
Okay.
Crisis intervention training. And so that's a program that's local in Maricopa County that's been started. And it's not mandatory, but a lot of our officers have gone through it. And what that does is prepare you to deal with mental illness, because we deal with that a lot. Most, I would say 80% of our calls, there's some kind of mental illness related issue. And so you get trained on how to deal with that. And in that class, you do scenarios. They also bring in someone who struggles with mental illness who will give their testimony, which is really eye-opening when someone's sharing their testimony and what they go through, or the voices they hear, or this is how I act when this occurs, or, so that's really impactful for the officers, because you get to see from the other side what it's like. And so it's a week class, and it's pretty intensive training to understand what you're dealing with. And then they also discuss the resources or where to take the people when they need help. So all that's covered. And once you get certified in that, it kind of benefits you when you hit the road, as a patrol officer.
That's huge.
Mm-hmm.
Huh.
Mm-hmm.
And Michael, you were going to...
Well, I think just also in just general training, like just keeping up with proficiency training as far as dealing with any crisis, not just on the mental health side of it, but any dynamic situation where family's dealing with an emergency, we go through the training to hopefully be able to resolve that situation, and with using the minimal amount of force that we can, unless it's called for it. And I think by practicing it and repping it out through not only just through annual training, but through daily briefings by supervisors or just other officers in general before hitting the streets, talking about certain situations or certain types of videos that may be happening on the other side of the country, to converse with each other. Hey, how would you respond to this type of scenario? What can we learn from what that officer did or didn't do to improve and help people of Tempe get through whatever it is that they're going through.
And we've also all been through de-escalation training. So that's another thing that the department was ahead of the curve on. We teamed up with ASU Research, and we did all the studies, and they looked at body-worn camera, and it was all grant funded. And then we rolled out our de-escalation program that the entire department went through. And that's something that I believe assists us, because we're trained in how to de-escalate. People think de-escalate, well, you don't use force. No, sometimes de-escalation is force, but it's the way you prepare for the situation. How are you communicating? Or your time? Time is another thing that we're talking about through our patrol model, right? Am I using the time allocated to solve this problem? So between the patrol model, de-escalation, CIT, just a lot of training that we go through to prepare us for those scenarios.
I'm going to age us a little bit,
Okay.
you and I, but I think you will be okay with this.
Yeah.
So we are really 20 years into our career. Can we go to the beginning of what you experienced as a young patrol officer in the topic of mental illness and how we have changed today? What are some resources that we use, and how have you seen a change on the topic of mental illness?
Huge change. Back then, we arrested them. I mean, if you committed a crime, we arrested them, not even dealt with the mental aspect. Now, if they commit a crime and we can see that it's clearly a mental issue, because culpable mental state, are we able to prove that they even knew what they were doing, right? We can now have facilities such as community bridges. There's also one in Phoenix. There's areas that we can take these people to get help. They get a psychological evaluation. If it's deemed they need to be held, they're held. For whatever period of time deemed to be held. And then you have to also appear as an officer in kind of like a civil court hearing. If they are going to get held, you're going to testify to what you saw, the behavior you saw, what brought you to bring them there to the facility. But they're getting resources that we never had back in 2002 when I got on.
And even
01. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Yes. And so what does this do for a community and family? What is this change? How does this affect our community?
Well, for one, it's huge on the taxpayers, right? Because jail, arrest, all that stuff is taxpayer dollars. So if we're not putting them in the system, but we're getting them help, it saves right there. It also provides the family with resources, because now this individual who they were concerned about is now getting treatment. It's forced treatment because they have now been taken to a facility. So these people are coming out, and you still have people that will relapse or whatever, but for the most part, they're getting medications prescribed. They're able to balance out. They're now living successful, productive lives. They're helping their family out. They're now being better in community. So everyone wins from it now.
And how has the climate around recruiting changed for sworn and professional staff?
Well, it's changed drastically. I know you remember when we got on in 01 and 02, there was 400 people who applied when I applied for the position. We used 2 high schools. That's how many people had applied. Now we're not getting those numbers. On average, to sworn turnout or civilian turnout, I would say sworn is between 10 or so on testing day. Civilian of applications are maybe 3 to 4 to 5, under the 5 mark. So not the huge turnouts where they were back then. The climate of recruiting is all social media now. So we do set up booths and go different places. I have gone to ASU and spoken to the ASU athletics department, the football team. They have a Pat Tillman's Veteran Center on campus where 400 vets are on the ASU campus. So we're building a partnership with them. So now the landscape of recruiting is more networking, partnership, social media, online, emails. Versus back then, it was like you set up a table and you had a line out the door because people wanted to do the job. So we've had to reinvent ways that we market, that we recruit. Tempe is part of this. They went out and got a research development internet department called Breakthrough, and they do our social media marketing. And so they're a third-party company that looks at clicks, likes, directing people to our site. They do all that internet backstage stuff that we're not necessarily seeing on the front, because we have to reinvent ourselves. And how are we going to market ourselves as a department? How are we going to recruit? This podcast is one of them. I don't know any other department in our nation who is doing a podcast. So we've always been innovative in ways that we want to reach the community and people.
And Officer Miller, what have you seen in terms of climate change at the academy?
I think it's changed a lot. I mean, it's just from my 2 experiences in 2 different departments in the academy, as far as I didn't go to an Arizona academy, but when I started in 2009, there was the RTOs or equivalents to the recruit training officers. It was, I need you to be over here at this point in time, and we're yelling, and I didn't, it's kind of almost that militaristic type of training where it's like, okay, they're yelling at me, I'm just going to get from point A to point B and move on. To back then, it was a lot of discipline type of stuff. If you're doing something wrong, even out here, I know that they had a lot of discipline type of stuff that you had to do, whether it's running a tower or running a certain distance, pulling the tire, like doing some type of calisthenic exercise because you didn't greet somebody the proper way or whatnot. And now because of different climate change in just how we operate as humans, it's gotten to the point where everybody's asking, why are we doing that? Mm-hmm. And so as a training staff, we're trying to adjust to it, and we're getting that impact or feedback from the recruits almost after they've gone through an evolution of training, or when they're done at the very end. We ask them why, what can we improve upon, and how can we do something that can help the next class, the next group of recruits to come through. So we're asking, giving a lot of why input, giving them the reason why that they're doing something, changing just the word of doing discipline to now it's corrective action type of thing has changed. So over that time frame.
And because you were in the academy, and right now you are working in the academy, which do you think is beneficial for a person in terms of success?
I think just giving them the why. I was, I wondered at times, and maybe because I was just wanted to keep my job, I didn't want to say much. And now it's, I learned through my time at being on the street as an officer that, we need to ask why. We need to stop somebody from doing something that they shouldn't be doing, or whether it's professionally as a sworn member or just a citizen. And it kind of translates over to the academy in training. I think it's helped improve for Tempe officers. I think we've seen, since I've been out there and maybe in a class or two before, I think we've seen some pretty good recruits and new hires that have come through the department. And we've been kind of told by other departments, because I work directly with a couple different departments in the Mesa Academy, that we are hiring good, upstanding people.
That's excellent. And Officer Dawson, what would I do if I wanted to join the police department, but not as an officer?
Well, you could visit our website. There's a lot of good information on our website. You can also reach out to me as a recruiting officer. There's a lot of information that I know and can direct you and help you in. On our website, because most of the positions besides records and communication, well, actually they have a dispatch test, but there's a written test that's required. On our website, there's a practice exam that you can download to practice in preparation of. So between our website and reaching out to me, I can direct you in everything and answer any questions that you want: pay, benefits, testing process, oral board interview, and all of that.
And are there any education requirements to apply to be a sworn officer or a professional staff member?
So to be a sworn officer, all you need is a GED, so a high school diploma or equivalent. For our professional staff, depending on what area that you want to apply for, there are some educational requirements, and they vary. So those will be best figured out when you go to the website and apply for whatever particular job you're interested in.
And can you provide us with that website one more time, please?
Yes, it's www.tempe.gov, and you'll be able to find all the jobs there under government. Or if you want to go directly to the police site, it's www.tempe.gov/police jobs.
Well, I love both of you, your excitement and your passion, and I'm very proud of your hard work, both of you. And I would say, as we're sitting here and we're talking about recruitment, we're an example of recruitment. Mm-hmm. I mean, you have a female here. I am a Latina female, and just sitting across, I just want people to know that Tempe is open to everyone.
Yes, it
is.
There's
a place for everyone. So I thank you for
very
sharing.
Very diverse within and outside our community.
Yes, and so I thank you both for sharing with me.
Thank you. Appreciate the time.